Hey, this is Nick with another tutorial on Buildertrend, and we're talking about change orders today. And this is an aspect of Buildertrend that you need to be using. Even if you think that your projects don't change that much and you have a really firm scope of work, you need to embrace change orders. They don't always need to be big and scary, but they're a really good way to document adjustments to scope. So we're going to dive into it and make sure we understand exactly how it works, what the workflow is, and how the client can see and interact with these change orders as well. So let's dive into it. Why are we going to use change orders? So what we're doing with a change order is just agreeing to a change in scope. So we had an initial change of scope, even if it was verbal, hopefully it was written down, hopefully we have a lot of detail. If we adjust that scope of work in any way, shape, or form, we want to execute a change order. So it's an outline of change in scope of work, what we're doing, what work we're performing. Price, certainly. Price is going to go up or down with that adjustment in scope of work, and timeline. Now, timeline's a big one for me. I'm going to talk about custom fields a little bit when we get into Buildertrend. I think that's a really important aspect that you need to be hammering out in a change order. And when it comes to a change order, it's important to note that every change order doesn't need to adjust scope, price, and timeline. We don't need to adjust all of them, but we have the option to. What I mean by that is it's often a good idea to document a change order, even if the price doesn't change, just to indicate we're doing more or less work, to indicate that there's been an adjustment based on conditions of our conversations. All right? Embrace the tedious aspect of change orders. So a lot of folks, myself included, we see the word change order and we think about, hey, this change is so small and the customer told us they're good with it. We verbally have an agreement on the price change, but embracing the tedious aspect of change orders helps us because it adds resistance to the entire process. Generally speaking, we don't want a lot of change orders. We want to be able to have a decent scope of work, and we want to be able to start it and finish it. That allows us to schedule our work, to be efficient with our resources, with our subcontractors, etc. Of course, change is inevitable. We have to assume a certain amount of change orders, but we want to create some barrier, a little bit of resistance. Usually price is like the only one we think about. I want to introduce the idea that we physically have to sign it, we have to document it. That tedious aspect of it might make customers not want to do that many of them. Price certainly is a thing. Getting paid up front for our change orders is a lever we can pull, and also timeline. So make sure that your customers know that if we're changing the scope, if we're increasing the amount of work we're doing, there's probably going to be a schedule impact as well. All right. We don't want to constantly be fighting against moving the goalposts. What happens is we don't execute change orders, even if price isn't a thing, right? And it's like, hey, why is our project so delayed? Well, we added all this work. Well, if it's not documented, sometimes we forget. Customer might forget about it anyways, but having that documentation, that's really a strong thing to go to the end of a project with and be like, listen, we finished on this schedule with all this extra work that we did, right? Documenting that is really, really important. Even open book projects need change orders. Now, this is something that I thought a lot about as we kind of transitioned into more open book, time and materials, cost plus projects. What's the purpose of change orders? What are those there for? Well, I have come to terms with the fact that they're still really a good idea. So even with an open book project, we're still going to have an estimate, okay? And change orders, to me and to the industry and Buildertrend, really they're permission to change that estimate, okay? So we have our original budget, and then we have our revised budget. And the revised budget takes into consideration change orders. If we don't use change orders, our original and our revised is not going to change much. And then our total is going to be different. And then our customer is going to be like, hey, why are we so off budget? Change orders help to tell the story of why we're off budget. And so using change orders, even on open book projects, is really, really useful. All right, so let's get into it. Let me demonstrate for you how change orders work. So what I have here on my screen on my left is the builder side, and on the right is the customer side. All right, so I'm going to keep the builder side open for the most part, and then I'm going to toggle over here to see how this works. So what we have here is a project 365 Central Park. It's a really simple one to start. And we got a Gantt chart here of our schedule and everything that's happening with our project. We have a bit of a budget. It's not too built up, but I kind of have dabbled with this budget just to give us something. So here's our original budget. Here's our revised cost. Now I actually have a change order existing already. It's sitting right here, and I'm gonna create a new one. But you can see that our original budget will never change once it's locked. The revised budget changes based on selections and change orders. You can see that in the notes there. Okay, so we're going to make use of that revised budget as we play with our change orders here. Okay, so going over to the change orders portal, I'm going to go right over here. Okay, now even on an open book project, we have a situation where, hey, we're going to do this work. We might have a situation where it's like, hey, can we do this bathroom in addition to all the other stuff we said? Now, Old me and a lot of builders out there are just like, yeah, hey, open book project, let's just do that bathroom. You know, maybe we'll give them a rough estimate, maybe a verbal, and then we'll all forget about it. We'll do that bathroom, and then the end of the project, the price will be higher, and we're gonna have some issues. So I'd rather get on top of it, and we should estimate it anyway. So let's document that estimate and let's get approval. The customer saying, yes, I want to move forward with that. So let's create a change order. So let's just say this is an additional bathroom. Okay, and we might give an approval deadline of the end of the week and our price information. Now, I love this too, invoice upon client approval. I'm going to click this so you can see how that works. I don't always do that. Okay, if it's a really large change order, I'm probably going to work it into a more, iterative invoicing. But if it's a smaller one, I'd certainly do that. I'm going to do this just so you can see how it all works. I'm typically going to do a line item change order where I'm going to indicate that, hey, we have to do a little bit of extra demolition for this bathroom that we're doing now. Okay, so we're going to add this line item. So my markup's going there. Perfect. Great. So I got my demo, maybe a little bit of framing. And this will be labor, and we'll say that we got a carpenter on there for an extra 16 hours, and I'm typically marking up my labor at 100%. Not always, but that's something that it depends on what your rate is. Okay, so if I had say 1 hour of labor, what is that rate? In this case, it's $100. So if my rate was $80, then it would either be a $40 cost or it'd be a 0.8 quantity. I'm going to do $50 per hour with 100% markup. I'm going to say we have 16 of those hours. I'm going to have a little bit more rough plumbing. Okay, so as my plumber's got to come in. He's already working on the kitchen, but he said, like, hey, you're adding the bathroom. Hey, maybe another $960, right? I've hopefully had a conversation with him. Not always, though. Certainly on an open book project, you might not need to, but we should still estimate it. Rough electric, similar. Subcontract. I'm not going to do all of these. We'd certainly have tile. We'd have drywall. We'd have, almost like a little project, right? We're doing a whole bathroom. All right, let's do drywall. We're going to bring our subcontractor in there. And we got an additional 980 square feet. So we're going to do that at $3.10. So what did I say? 980 square feet. Got a 35% markup. That's a big bathroom, I know, but just get it on there. Let's do tile. And we'll kind of call it there. I think that'll be good enough. Unit cost, let's say that we have 225 square feet of tile. And we're at $20 a square foot. Okay, with our markup. Okay, so I'll just leave it there. There's probably other costs that should be in there, but you get the idea. Okay, so we have a cost of $12,673, a markup of $49.55, and a price of $17,628. So the customer is going to see this price and decide, do I want to move forward with this change order? If we had any documentation, maybe a design or something like that, we would attach it here as well. Let me see if I got anything that we can just bring in there quick. Let's see here. Probably not, actually. Just throw something on there. Okay, so we got a document. We should do that if we ever have it, if we're like drawing up cabinetry, if we're drawing up tile designs, anything that is informing this price. All right, and it's taking a while, so I might get rid of it, but yeah, I'll ditch that for now. All right, we could potentially assign it to subs and vendors. Now, here's where I want us to spend a little bit of time, okay? This is where I'm guilty sometimes, being like, all right, let's get this thing out the door. I want to make some really important internal notes, maybe some sub and vendor notes, and then potentially some client notes as well. But internal notes is going to be like, it should be completed in conjunction with the overall project. Efficiency is key. Whatever we need to say to our team here, okay? Reference designer build docs. Okay, that's for us. Then if we have a vendor on here, we can add notes for them as well. Okay, so if we add a specific vendor, we can do that. Now here, this change order description, this is very important for the customer. Okay, so this is where we want to maybe think about formatting and making this look really nice to be like, renovate kids bathroom. Okay, and we can take this and kind of just make this look a little bit nicer. And maybe put some bullet points. Okay, so demo existing plaster, drywall, remove fixtures, new plumbing, electrical, new drywall, new shower, all tile included. Okay, we want to build this out. And I'd say the more the better. What are we agreeing to actually doing here? Okay, and we could kind of be done, but you notice a couple fields down here. So I think custom fields are a really good idea for change orders, and specifically this one. This is something I insisted on with my team, schedule impact. Buildertrend doesn't have that yet built in. I imagine they will someday add that, you know, some kind of schedule impact. I added it as a text custom field that's required. So in order for anybody on our team to release a change order, we must indicate the schedule impact. And in this case, I might say minimal if approved on time, we will complete with the rest of the project. If not approved on time, can add 2 to 4 weeks. Okay, so we're saying that, hey, we can kind of do this at the same time, so this isn't really a big deal. So we can kind of get it going. Link, that could be a link to like design docs. But I'm kind of good, right? And I can save and release this. Now, you might have a tendency or a thought that you can approve on your own. And you might be able to. There's some cases where it makes sense to approve on your own, especially if we have a customer who's like, hey, listen, you're good to go, right? Go ahead and do that. I don't want to be dealing with all the minutia of signing off on it and all that. As long as you have some kind of agreement, you know, meeting minutes or something that says we have that agreement, you can do that and approve it here. We're still going to have the documentation, which is the most important part. But we should try to execute the workflow as Buildertrend has it plotted out, which is to release this invoice to the client. Now, before we do, we might want to look at the client preview. This is what they're going to see. They're going to see the price, not the cost. They're going to see the work we're doing, okay? And they can decide if they're going to approve it or not. All right, really, really useful. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save and release. And now this is going to go to the customer for review and approval. They're going to get an email. Hopefully, they'll get an email. They'll look something like this, new change order. So now we'll look over to the client side for a second. So let me just stay on the builder side for a minute. So now this goes into our list of change orders. There's my cost, there's my price. It's pending, it's released, but it has not yet been approved. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go over to the job costing budget. You notice that we added some info for demo, we added some framing. That doesn't show up yet here. It has not been approved. Only approved change orders are going to impact that budget. Okay, so now let's look at this from the client side here. I get this email. I can either approve it right here. I got all the details I need, but maybe I want to view details in Buildertrend itself. So here it pops up. This is my change order to review. I can maybe ask questions here. Does this include grout? Okay, let's send that. Okay, if we refresh, now I got a comment on that change order. It's not done yet, they got a question on it. So I can maybe look at this and say, yes, all inclusive. Okay, and we're just having a conversation about this change order. And then the customer's gonna see that notice come in. Oh, all inclusive, perfect, let's do it, all right? And I'm going to confirm, and I'm gonna sign my name, and I'm gonna approve it. Now I could approve and pay. Let me just approve so you can see how this works. So I'm going to approve it from the client side. All right, now I again have a chance to view the invoice, to pay, or just say, got it. Okay, I'm going to refresh on the builder side over here. Okay, so I see that that's approved. That's awesome. Let's go over to my invoices. Did it create an invoice for me? It did, right here. I'm requesting payment in full. Now, I could adjust this and say like, all right, that whole thing, I could put percentages to that, but let's just pretend it's gonna be paid in full. Now it's sitting out there as an invoice. Dates have not been added to it. I would have to add those dates, and I can do that. Let's make that date right there. Okay. All right, so there are some other actions I'm going to take, but before we do that, let's just look at how the budget is impacted. Now that we've agreed to a change in scope of work, I see that my revised cost has increased and the revised client price has increased as well. Okay, so there's my original client price, there's my new revised client price. So now I can track to the changing goalposts are now accounted for. You know, it's not like we just have that original, it gets thrown out the water because we added that bathroom, added those other aspects. That makes the budget completely useless. What are we even doing with it, right? The revised budget accounts for an approved change in scope of work. Okay, from the customer side, one more time, I can look at my approved change orders there. That looks awesome. If I go to my home screen, I can see that I have a payment due there, so I can go to pay it. There's the change order, the invoice showing up on my calendar. Okay, I can go to this invoice, click pay, submit payment, and move on with life. All right, a really awesome workflow from both perspectives. If I am given access to the budget, which I'm not currently, let's see if we can do that real quick. Let's give this customer access to the budget. So there's our markup. We want and can edit what they see, job price summary, purchase order, and budget. And I'm going to use the job costing budget. And I like related items. Let's just save that. There's my job costing budget. Perfect. All right, and I can see original budget, revised budget. We can decide whether or not we want to show them cost or if we just care about our revised price, the $38,000 on price. Okay, so everything's easy from the client standpoint. Now there is one more step that I'd want us to take from this change order. Okay, so if we have a really good PO process, this has been approved, we're ready to go. I'd want to create purchase orders from this. Okay, so I'm surprised we can't do it right from here, but we should be able to do it right here. Okay, additional bathroom, I can go here to create purchase order, create a new PO. Now it probably wouldn't all be the same place. We'd probably have separate ones. Create separate purchase orders for each because I got a different demo sub. I'm not going to do framing, that's internal, but all these other guys, I got different ones, and I would potentially assign them. I'm going to leave them blank for now. I'm just going to finish that off and create all those purchase orders that'll now flow into my purchase orders, right? And what's awesome about these purchase orders is they should automatically give us the customer change order variance code here. Okay, so that's really, really helpful. All right, and that variance code helps us tell the story of why things changed. Okay, and then once we approve these, so I can take a lot of these and approve them, that's going to give us committed costs then. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'll release them first, and then can I approve them all? Let's see, I don't think they're gonna let me do that. No, bummer. Let's just do one of them. Okay. And probably not letting me because I don't have anybody assigned to it. That makes sense. Okay, whatever. Let's just mark it work complete for now. So those will flow in eventually to our job costing budget. All right. So that's how it all works. And I think that process flow, it's not too tough. You should have somebody on your team who owns change orders. Okay, they need to be in charge of that. If we don't, we kind of miss it. It could be the project manager, the production manager, somebody in scoping, somebody in sales who owns that. And anytime there's a scope adjustment that comes up during a meeting, during a walkthrough, let's execute a change order. It doesn't have to have a price associated with it, but we should at least answer the question, does price change, does scope change, does our timeline change? All right, these are so, so important. And that little bit of extra effort helps to add documentation, accountability, and again, tracking those moving goalposts is so, so essential when it goes to coming up with a really strong client experience. All right, let me know your questions, your comments, how you use change orders, what differences you use in your process. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to answer your questions as well. Look out for more videos on the same topic coming up very, very soon.